By chance, have you been keeping abreast of the Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia fight that was announced in the press conferences that happened?
Devin Haney's an extraordinary athlete. Uh, Devin Haney appears to be potentially, we don't know until they get into the ring, but he appears to be a more well rounded fighter and a more likely bet as to overall boxing quality than Ryan Garcia. So, based on conventional wisdom, I have to make Devin Haney the favorite in the fight. He beat Vasily Lomachenko. I'm not sure that I would pick Garcia to do something like that. Ryan Garcia has a sizzling left hook, and sizzling left hooks have solved a lot of problems that are ancillary to them in fights in the past. So you can never count him out. He could always knock Haney out with one sizzling left hook. But at the end of the day, you have to prefer Haney's overall boxing skill and resume to that of Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, they just had a press tour. They went to New York. Yesterday they were in Los Angeles. And the big theme that came out of it, or the one thing that a lot of people are picking up on, is they feel that Ryan Garcia just isn't there mentally. He's not focused. And at the press conference, he admitted to drinking and smoking in between camps. What do you make of that, Jim? Like, you've covered this game for such a long time. When that gets involved with a fighter, what happens there?
You know, not as a fighter, not as an athlete, only as a broadcaster. From personal experience, I can tell you that when I first started making way more money than I had ever dreamed I was likely to make in my life, I made exactly those mistakes. I drank too much. I smoked pot. I dated women I probably shouldn't have chosen to date. I spent too many nights in places where I shouldn't have been. So I can empathize. If Ryan Garcia is being confessional enough in media appearances to say, okay, this is where my behavior has gone wrong, I get it. Okay. I don't know of too many people who have wound up at some surprise plateau in their late 20s, middle 20s, somewhere along that stage in life, making a great deal more money than they ever dreamed possible, who didn't make any mistakes. It's almost impossible. It throws you for a loop. I admire his honesty in saying so. I think Oscar De La Hoya wishes that he had said so earlier in his career. He probably could have gotten away from it more easily if he had faced that head on, as Garcia seems to be trying to do at this point. Or the other possibility is it's useful fodder for a press conference. It might garner a headline or two, and it doesn't really reflect anything in the way of meaningful and serious self-evaluation. That's another way that can go.
Yeah, no, he's 25, 26. And that exact what you said is exactly what he said. Like, look, what would you do at this age with that money? Like, don't you think you would do like even crazier things? And then, I got to thinking like, yeah, probably. But with this game, you got to be dedicated. You got to be, in the gym training. Bernard Hopkins always preached to keep, your body as a temple, keep it clean. The only guy that I think of that had these vices, I don't know vices, but would do these things and still perform at a high level, though it was for a short window, was Ricardo Mayorga.
For a short window, but he was a high risk, shoot the moon type fighter, and if he was a little bit off, he was way off. So yeah, when we first saw him, when he was fighting against De La Hoya, guys of that ilk, he was capable of the great night, despite the less than perfect preparation. That doesn't last very long. It really doesn't. And at the end of the day, what people from outside the sport, I think, underestimate is the degree to which this is a sport of extremely fine margins. I mean, very, very thin margins of competition. I said to you, Devin Haney beat Lomachenko. Did he? I mean, there are a lot of people look at that fight and say, "What are you talking about?" Lomachenko was right there in the 12th round. He was going at him punch for punch, et cetera, et cetera. I think Loma won the fight. That's the nature of boxing. And at the end of the day, it goes down on your record as a W. The record looks gaudy. Okay, 28-1, whatever it is. At the end of the day, some of these are totally subjective, very fine margin decisions that can be questioned by anybody with a rational mind, and they don't mean life and death differences the way sometimes the public will take them to.
Ryan Garcia is one of the sports rising. Well, he's already a star, but could end up being the face of boxing. But to be that, you got to win the big ones. He went with Tank. Things didn't go his way. He had a lot of things put into that fight with rehydration clauses and all that. But at the end of the day, Jim, if he goes into this fight and he's not victorious, is he still one of the sport's biggest stars, or does he have to win the big one in order to have that honor?
So much of that these days is driven by social media and by the personal appeal of the athlete and his connection to the audience on social media. I no longer regard myself as an expert in evaluating a question like that because I don't do social media. I am a dinosaur. I'm an ancient, archaic type personality who still relates to the audience through conventional channels of the kinds that I grew up with and not via social media. So it's hard for me to tell you how deep and indelible is Ryan Garcia's relationship to his audience, because a lot of it is built on social media, and they want him, and they want him for visible and good reasons. He's an extremely attractive human being. He's good looking. He can speak reasonably well. He has a lot of what De La Hoya had, and De La Hoya carried the sport at a period of time when there weren't enough stars, and he did it by fighting the best fighters he can fight over and over and over, getting credit eventually from the audience for it, and therefore the audience was willing to forgive his narrow losses here and there because he was working so hard to try to entertain them. If Garcia takes the right fights, fights credible opponents, does it over and over, he'll remain a star regardless of whether he wins or loses.
Yeah. Let's see what happens, because he has this Tank fight, he has this Haney fight. There's still a lot of other big fights for Ryan. Rolly Romero.
He fought Tank Davis. Now he's fighting Devin Haney. These are good signs that he is willing to support the sport through competition.
Yeah, no, Rolly Romero's out there still for him. Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, and that's not even mentioning a move up to 147 pounds for him, where there's other.
And by the way, they're going to pay him for every one of those, even if he doesn't win them. We're still going to pay him. So so it's worth doing if you like the gig. And most of the fighters I've known do eventually fall in love with the gig because it's so involving and so all-consuming and so intense, even if it's day-to-day in the gym.
Yeah, but then there's that question, is the juice worth the squeeze? In his point, I would think so. I would put up with it for 30, 40 million paydays,
100,000%. How are you going to argue with those numbers?
Yeah.
You're not going to get that going and taking an entry-level job as a bank cashier. You only get that from a few experiences in life, and this is one of them.
Yeah, but that brings me back to what I brought up. I think that's why some fans are thinking man, what are you doing with the drinking and the smoking? Your window as an athlete is so small to maximize the amount of revenue you can get. You're in your prime. Don't do that stuff. Just try to get as much money as you can, and you can win these fights. You're self-sabotaging yourself by doing this.
Well, that comes down to, is hand speed a natural gift, or is hand speed something that you built in the gym by training? And I think that, as with shooting and basketball, hand speed is a natural gift for a lot of these guys. And then, the ability to throw punches in bunches and make them almost invisible, but because of the speed with which you launch them, Oscar had that. Garcia has that. Fighters who have that have a commodity that they don't always recognize over the long haul, how important it is to keep nurturing and polishing it in the way in which they've nurtured and polished it in the gym. That's why God made trainers. Trainers are put on earth to try to make sure that people like Oscar, like Ryan Garcia, like Devin Haney, like other naturally gifted fighters, will preserve and polish the gifts instead of allowing them to atrophy.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe for more videos
of your favorite fighters over here on Fight Up TV. And give us a follow online as well at Fight Up TV on Twitter and on Instagram. We appreciate it, guys.